Hey everyone, I'm Harsh, pursuing my master's from JNU. Now, this video primarily deals with note making, or precisely put, how did I make my notes? Before getting started, for the record, just wanted to make it clear the word topper used in this video is just a catchphrase in order to increase this video's reach. Now, the structure of this video is pretty simple. I'll cover one topic each from different parts of the syllabus and decipher my approach so that you can make your own notes. Now, I realize that this is not going to be of much help to the people giving CUET this March, but nonetheless, it can potentially help future aspirants. That's why I decided to make this video. For those of you writing CUET this March, you can access my notes in the Drive link mentioned in the video description. Please don't rely solely on them because, again, these are tailor-made to my strengths and weaknesses, but you can, of course, use it as a reference point. And on strategy, I think you should be focusing on revision and solving at this juncture, right? Try making one paper notes, one pager notes basically, on major topics so that you can revise them even on the exam day. And while solving tests, the thing that you need to remember is that please maintain a separate notebook for any mistakes you make, right? And make sure you revise those mistakes multiple times. That mistakes-based register comes in very, very handy. Right. Cool. So starting with Western political thought, right? So if you look at my notes of Plato, you'll realize I have only written his theory of forms and its central idea in one line. And that's because questions in previous years have largely been surface level when it comes to the ideas, the theories of the philosophers. This is followed by his famous quotations, chronology of his books, all factual stuff, right, that NTA generally asks. Now, before last year, questions were very, very factual in nature. Last year, paper was relatively conceptual, but I still think you don't need to memorize the details of the theories because unlike factual questions, concept-based questions are never arbitrary in nature. Similarly, if you look at Indian political thought, terminology that a particular thinker might have used, key influences on them, books, journals written by them, political parties, associations they founded, were a part of, etc., becomes very, very important. So for WPT and IPT, what we can conclude is that the following things are really, really important. One, influences on thinkers. Two, their terminologies. Three, the gist of their theories. And fourth, their books, quotations, political parties, etc. So make sure you focus upon these areas, right? Jumping straight to IR theories now. So if you look at my notes of realism, again, this follows a similar format. Starts with the key idea, followed by key thinkers and their books. I'll reiterate, you don't have to write a thesis on these theories. So for example, as long as you know what's the main difference between realism and neo-realism, what is offensive, defensive realism, you're good to go, right? The point I'm trying to make is that always focus on mainstream content first and master it since you have a paucity of time. And for other things that are relatively less important, say for example like the systems theory. So while I was attempting CUET, I did not know what system theory looks like. All I knew was that system theories is something that's given by Kaplan, right? So as long as you just know that this is a theory that broadly exists within this school and it was given by this particular philosopher, I think you're good to go. You should always focus on mainstream content first, right? And for foreign policy, again, factual details like agreements, visits, their joint initiative is something that you need to focus on. So in case of United States, we have had considerable events post 1998. Make a note of them, right? Just one-liners. This implies that you don't have to memorize, all the numbers, so you don't have to memorize bilateral trade, diaspora numbers, etc. This is something that's not important if you look and analyze the PYQs, right? The pro tip here would be that make a one-pager timeline for each country mentioned in the syllabus, right? So it's easier to memorize and revise foreign policy when you follow a format like that, right? For political theory, now again, this is one domain where you have to focus on concepts since political theory is primarily philosophy. So invest more on concepts here. So you should know more about negative and positive liberty, the distinction between them, than you know about the difference between offensive and defensive neorealism, right? And again, otherwise, the basic checklist remains the same, right? Key thinkers, their ideas, quotes and books. This should be your focus area primarily. Now, for Indian political thought, since this is the most factual part of this examination, you'll have to make tables, charts of important articles, appointment ages, retirement ages, etc. etc. The questions are mostly straightforward. So in your notes, focus on facts based on the analysis of the PYQs. And lastly, if I talk about PubAd and public policy, now since the cost benefit ratio of this section is very, very limited, what I'd advise is to make crisp notes by identifying themes based on PYQs. I did not have dedicated notes based on them because, again, I thought the cost is to benefit ratio is something that's not worth it. But if you're someone who likes reading about PubAd and pub policy, sure, I mean, you can make notes based on your analysis of PYQs. I think that's all for this video. You can share and access my notes from the video description. If you have more questions, feel free to shoot them in the comment section of this video. Thank you so much and all the best for your examination.